That was the Premier this morning, making it sound like there would not be any protest on the Sydney Harbour Bridge in relation to Gaza, that this wasn't just about the timing of it. Josh Lees is the organiser with the Palestinian Action Group. Good morning to you. You will have heard by now what the Premier had to say. What's your response?
G'day, Hamish. Thanks for having me. Well, the Premier's comments are very revealing there, aren't they? Because initially he made out that the issue was timing, but as he's made very clear, he is opposed to us ever taking this kind of stand that is so necessary. And that's the starting point. Let's remember why we're calling for this. It's because we're facing an unprecedented, horrific genocide in Gaza, the deliberate mass starvation of 2 million people, hundreds of babies dying from starvation. So that's why we're calling for this urgent action.
Can I just draw you, though, to the matter at hand, which is what is or isn't going to happen on the bridge? The Premier is saying this is not something he'd ever support. Will you continue to attempt to stage a protest on the bridge, or will you take your cue from him and revert to other locations?
We'll continue to fight for our right to protest on the bridge, absolutely. And the Premier says that this would cause chaos, but just a few weeks later there's a Sydney Marathon which is running over the bridge, exactly the same as what we're planning to do on Sunday. So clearly this doesn't cause chaos at all, and clearly it's not an issue of timing. What we're seeing here is Chris Minns doesn't want us to protest in a way that will have the massive impact that a huge march across the bridge will, and he knows it will. And it's so crucial because we have to send a message to the world, to the people of Gaza, to Israel, to stop this genocide, and a march over the bridge is the biggest way we can possibly do that as the people of Sydney, taking to our streets, taking to our bridge to be able to send this message.
Just on the timing, I mean, the Premier didn't say it's not to do with the timing. I think it's worth just playing a little bit of his clarification on that matter.
My argument here is I can't close down the central artery for a city as big as Sydney, even on a short-term basis, but even if we had a massive heads-up to do it. Now, that doesn't mean police aren't speaking with the protest organisers and saying, where are there alternative routes for a march, not a static protest, but a march through Sydney's streets. But, I mean, I think common sense has to play a role here. When it's been closed in the past, and you can count on one hand over the last decade when it's happened, it's been months and months and months in the preparation.
So that's the Premier's position on the timing. And he's not saying, to be fair to him, that you can't have a protest.
Well, he made very clear from his own words, as you quoted earlier, that he is opposed to us marching on the bridge at any time.
So but he's not opposed to you having a protest. I mean, he's making the point that you hold protests regularly.
He doesn't have the right to stop us protesting. Thankfully, we do not live in a dictatorship where the Premier gets to decide whether or not we can protest. So, yes, we've been protesting for 2 years. Unfortunately, the Premier has opposed that as well. But we will continue to protest, and we have a right to protest. And this is an unprecedented moment of mass catastrophe, the deliberate.
So, Josh, what are you planning? Josh, what are you planning to do now in response to this? Will you apply to have a protest on the bridge? Will you take it to court? I think that's what we're just trying to get our head around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've already applied to have our protest on the bridge as through the usual process. We've lodged our Form 1, with the required notice. So the process now is if the police or the government want to stop us from doing it, they have to take us to the Supreme Court. And if they do that, we'll fight that in court. And as previously, we hope that we'll win that case. Last time the government took us to court to try to ban a protest, we also won that case. Now, we don't want to go down that road. We would rather the government would come on board and realise that this is a crucial moment when we should all be standing together against a genocide. But if we're forced to go to court to defend the right for hundreds of thousands of people in Sydney to march across our harbour bridge to stop a genocide, then we're prepared to do that.
A few people on the text line saying, why do we have to pay for it? Obviously, there's an issue of public funding with these sorts of events, and clearly the bridge is a more costly exercise. What's your response to that, Josh?
Well, the bridge is going to be closed in a few weeks for a Sydney Marathon, for example. Are we complaining about that? The bridge was closed for several hours to shoot a movie scene. Should we oppose that? The bridge was closed 2 years ago for the World Pride March, which I supported, and the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, participated in that march across the bridge 2 years ago. So clearly this can be done. It is done regularly, and it should be done in such a crucial moment as this, when people of Sydney are overwhelming in their opposition to this genocide.
Josh Lees, thank you so much for your time this morning. Josh Lees there from the Palestine Action Group.